This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world. Our first guest on Femme House Radio is Anabel Englund. She just released her first debut album on MK's label Area 10, which includes collaborations with MK, Night Lapse, Lee Foss, and Jamie Jones. She has a Billboard #1, and she is one of my favorite melody makers, whose vocals can stand on their own outside of the house track. This album is one of the best vocal house albums out there, period. And she also plays the piano, which I absolutely love. She makes music that connects with house heads and pop culture alike, which is a sweet spot to be in. Anabel, where are you calling in from, and how are you doing mentally, physically during this wild pandemic time?
Hey, that was such an amazing intro. Thank you. I'm tuning
Well,
in.
thanks for being amazing.
So I'm tuning in from Los Angeles, specifically Echo Park. I'm doing pretty well. Today I just feel like a little exhausted, but that's just how it goes. You know, there's the ups and downs of the pandemic, and so I'm just kind of listening to my body and not getting down on myself and just kind of flowing with everything.
Oh, do you have any tips on how to do that? I find myself, I do morning pages every morning to try to, get all the stuff out of my head onto the paper so I can live my life. And my morning pages have been full of give yourself some extra self-love today, because I'm really I really feel like I should be doing more all the time. And especially in the pandemic, we're not touring, we're not constantly getting on airplanes, shouldn't my output be way greater? And I'm actually finding it really hard sometimes to have big output. I don't know if it's the pandemic or what it is, but I'm struggling with the not beating myself up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I have some days where I'm just extra critical on myself, but then I also have days where I'm in total acceptance and I know that there's nothing I can do, and I'm literally doing all that I can in order to, I'm doing all that I can, my team's doing all that we can, and there's so many things happening behind the scenes that I don't know. And I found that it does help to do at least one productive thing in the day, and then you can do all the lazy stuff that we do. At least I do, because I just, I just really get caught in the routine of doing nothing, I guess, because what the fuck can you do? And especially since I did have COVID, I was it was really high quarantine because I couldn't go anywhere. I was never going to infect anyone. So I literally, all I could do was be home for 3 weeks. And
how did that, I'm sure that there was a lot of I feel like there's some judgment and some where would you gotten it? Were you not being safe? And all that, but it's it really is very easy to get. You could have gotten it at the grocery store, you could have gotten it how, I'm sure that there was a lot of emotions that went into that.
Yeah, I've also noticed there's so much judgment of people who are it's people think that they're intentionally giving other people COVID. For me, I had no idea I had it, because to me, you have COVID if you have a cough and all these other symptoms. And I had none of those symptoms for a week, but I was feeling under the weather. So I had no idea I even had it, or, so it taught me a lot. And then I also woke up to the fact that there are a lot of people ready to pass judgment, when literally even before Christmas and all of that, I was just in my house. I literally didn't do anything. So...
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really important. I think people are not sharing that because they're worried about the judgment, but it's good for you to say, hey, I just had body aches. I didn't have maybe the normal symptoms that you're hearing about, and that's good for everybody else to know that, and if I think that information could be shared more easily if we didn't feel like we were going to be judged for that. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so what is your origin story? how did you get into songwriting?
Well, how did I get into it? I mean, I grew up with my dad, who always was doing country music. We listened to country music a
Cool.
lot, and I like grew up on Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and like all the pop music at that time. And it was like I was begging to put on the Britney Spears CD while my brother wanted the Eminem CD, and then my dad wanted like the Garth Brooks. And so it was like a constant battle of like, well, we listened to that CD, so we're gonna listen to the other one now.
That's
So I grew up
amazing.
with like such a dynamic and funny like range of music, but my dad was always writing music, and he was always playing music for my brother and my brother and me. And so
And
yeah.
I saw your brother. Your brother plays guitar with you sometimes, right?
Yeah, my brother's a really great musician, really talented singer and songwriter. His voice is just so beautiful. And so I think like for me, and my dad wasn't just one of those dads that played guitar. Like there's a lot of dads that like play guitar and like they sound like shit, and like it's just like it's sweet, like your dad plays guitar. But my dad like actually has like a really great voice. It wasn't like a hobby of his. Like he is still like such a talented songwriter, and like he would blow people away, blow people out of the water. And so for me, like attaining that seemed very realistic because I grew up with it as well. And I don't know, I grew up with a grandmother who has many accomplishments and is famous and an icon in her own right. And so like having that type of fame or whatever, it didn't seem really far-fetched to me. So I would just work on music, and I was in a little indie band, and like I sang a cover of Girl from Ipanema on YouTube, and then my friend's friend happened to be the head of music on ABC Family, which is now Freeform, and she saw the video I recorded of Girl from Ipanema, which then she brought me into ABC Family and was like, could you come sing a few songs for me? So I went in with my guitar that I barely knew how to play, and literally just like sang her some songs that I've written, I mean, on guitar. And I almost like cried at one because one was about my mom, and I was like really sad. It was just really authentic and really personal. And then she hired me to do a 5-song contract, singing and helping co-write 5 songs for the network. And yeah, I know it was
amazing.
I know. So that happened, and then at the same time I was falling deeply in love with house music in the Los Angeles scene, and like I was falling so in love with the mystery and the darkness and like the like staying up all night to the sunrise. And so I was like doing ABC Family on one end, and then doing like falling in love with house music on the other end, and like the grimy LA like house music scene. And so at a certain point I was like, bye ABC Family. And then I met Lee Foss, and then we were making music, and like it literally happened like that. It wasn't like I was like reaching out and doing all that. It was like very serendipitous and very just like flowing. And yeah.
You said something that really struck with me, which is, your grandmother was an artist, and so it just didn't seem that far-fetched to you. Like you believed you could do it.
Yeah.
And I find that the biggest barrier to entry, when people ask me like, how did you start or how did you get into it? Like the main thing that you need, I think maybe even more than talent, is belief that it's possible. Because if you believe it's possible, you'll put in the work and do the things that it takes to get recognized or be seen or, collaborate or et cetera. And I think that's really cool that you had that from the very beginning, seeing that it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I just knew that it was. And I think, it's definitely a big deal, because if you don't think it can happen, then how could it? And
totally.
And not saying that doesn't mean that self-doubt isn't allowed, because I still have self-doubt, and I still have moments of like, is this possible? But like underlyingly, I know that it is. But then there's some days where I'm like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to happen, but whatever.
1,000%. Totally. I'm glad that you said that. And this kind of leads us to my next question, which is, Femme House exists for this purpose, for visual representation, so that other girls can see us doing it and say, I can do it too. The first time I was playing in a band, I was doing synthesized running all the synthesizers.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that Grimes produced her own music.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first female producer that I had ever heard of. And so I went, oh my gosh, never even thought about myself in that role. Truly blew
Yeah.
my mind. I just never even thought I could do that because subconsciously I didn't see myself in that role. So that's why I really want to start Femme House is just to, draw attention to this and put more women in those places and hopefully have other women see them and think I can too.
Yeah.
And so what's interesting to me though is that, historically in dance music, the producer takes the lead and gets the name recognition and the credit, et cetera.
Yeah.
And you've been able to flip that script and create a full-blown, career in dance music.
Yeah.
And I've been really, really impressed by that and wondering what was your path to getting there and did you confront any pushback in that, specifically in dance music?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wondered that too. It's like, how is the producer like this? For instance, there could be such a beautiful song that all I can love about it is this woman's vocals, and then all it has is the producer's name. And I was like, but like,
it's a trip, right?
Yeah, it's so bizarre. And then I don't understand that. But I think that's really changing from what I've been seeing of music being released. Like I am seeing a lot more names, but maybe I'm just looking for it. But like I remember the first time I performed with Lee Foss, it was at BPM in Playa del Carmen, and River Skydiving wasn't released yet, and I was gonna perform it. And I remember looking and being like, "There's no like okay, so there's the DJ booth, and then there's all the people out in the crowd." And I was like, well, if I stand here at the DJ booth, no one's gonna see me singing, and I think it's just a metaphor for what I did and what I claimed, because there wasn't a stage for me to perform, but I made one and I got up on the DJ decks and I like made it. So I was like literally on the DJ decks. So I was singing to the whole crowd and they could all see me. Cause it's like, well, why aren't you singing if people can't see me?
I love that. I love that energy. And that is exactly why I love you. You're going to claim and take what is rightfully yours. And I'm here for that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, why not? Like, if I'm going to do it, then why not do it right? And that's kind of just how it happened the whole time. Like Lee convinced Jamie, he was like, I met this girl, Anabel, we should bring her out for some Hot Natured sessions. And then I ended up singing like 3 songs on the album, and I think I did like the opening show with them, and then it became a thing where it was like, oh, everyone loves when Anabel is on stage. Like they're actually like cheering harder for her to come out than anyone else. Like we should probably bring her with us for the world tour. And so then it was like, and then that, I owe it to Hot Natured because, for them taking me with them and seeing that I have value there. And not only that, but I made a name for myself performing and doing that. And I was able to like have a sustainable career because even after that, I was able to perform even when I wasn't releasing much music. So I think, I don't know, I just kind of did it.
Good for you. I feel like you were aware and you made sure that you had the spot and you made it happen for yourself.
Yeah.
It's very, very inspiring. I think about that a lot too, but sometimes I hear a track that I love and it'll just be in dance music specifically, it'll just be the producer's name, and that, usually the producer is a male. So it's kind of a trick that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a songwriter, what do you look for when working with a producer? What kind of thing do you look for in the producer?
Well, really, I just love people who are creative, fun, and down to and have a good craft. Who are really good at their craft. Like for me, I love working with my friends, but now I'm at a point where I want to work with people who are a lot better than I am, and just I want to work with the best of the best so that I can be the best of the best, and I know what sounds better. Like if I'm working at this tier and I'm continuing to just stay in my bubble, then how can I grow and how can I elevate my sound to be something better, and how can I make more money off of, to me, it's about having success, and success is the best sound, the best songwriting. And when you have a good, for me, I write to the beats, so once in a while I'll have a song idea, and then I'll say I want to do this, but I never like start with an a cappella and then work from there. Like I love creating from what the producer has. So
Got it.
I like right
So
now.
you had to be moved by that.
Yeah. And right now I'm not really at a place where I'm like, I don't want to work with you. I don't want to work with you, because my label, Ultra, through Area 10, is killing it with, putting me in the room with so many talented people. And I'm
Awesome.
Unsatiable when it comes to meeting people who are just so talented. And I just want to keep meeting and working with more.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear your future music. I'm sure it's going to be unbelievable. Truly,
I
your
have
melodies
so
are. In
much.
fact, I've talked to Sophie and Tucker a lot about this, about how amazing your melodies are. I've seen you perform your songs acoustically,
Mm-hmm.
and they totally stand on their own. You're a full songwriter. It could be folk music, it's really cool to hear them over house beats. Obviously, that's what draws me in as a
Yeah.
house producer myself. But I love that they so strongly stand on their own. You're clearly such a solid, songwriter. Very
Thank
impressed with that.
you. Thank you.
So, what advice would you give your younger self?
I guess I would just tell myself that I'm always where I'm supposed to be, and
Mm.
sometimes it feels really painful when people leave you or you feel like you're not good enough or whatever, but you are, and there's so many amazing people who are going to enter your life, and just have faith and trust that you're in the right spot, and on everything and everywhere that you're in right now, you're meant to go through it and survive and thrive.
I love that. I remind myself that a lot. Sometimes if I don't get an opportunity that I wanted, I think, okay, maybe that meant that I wasn't quite ready for it, and I need to keep working, and it will come when the time is supposed to.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember that sometimes, but yes.
I know. Well, that's the thing. Like
It's
when you're
true.
in it, that's all you can really see. It's really hard to know. Like for me, there was a moment where like my agent left me and was like, drop me, and then my manager gave me a call and was like, basically like breaking up, like I'm dropping you. And then my lawyer was like, well, my lawyer who I'd been with since the beginning, he was like, it would have happened by now. So like, I kind of can't like keep
No.
it. And I was like, okay.
Wait, I'm so pumped up you're sharing this, because this is the stuff people need to hear more. So
Yeah.
like, what in you said, you know what, keep going? Like what did you draw from in those moments? How did you, it's so much more impressive to me.
I know. Well, at first I was so crushed, because I also was going through a lot of self-work and self-evaluation, and also recognizing that at this same point in my life, I was working on the realization that my family wasn't there for me in times when I needed them to be. And so at the same time, all these people were also leaving me. But like, I was looking for, like, I always thought I needed a manager. So ever since my manager left me, I was like, oh, well, I need to find a new manager. I need to find one. So then I was like talking to all these people and called people and trying to get all this advice, and just so many things fell through, and it would be like, will you be my daddy? Like, will you be, it was like looking for that. And then I realized, like, actually, like, why am I giving a percent? Like, why would I give a percentage? I don't really need a manager right now. And then it was also like, I learned what having a manager actually entails, what I want from a manager. And instead of just like having a manager, what does that even mean? Like, I'm able to do all of these things, and what do I really want a manager for? What do I really want a lawyer and an agent for? And what are my goals in touring and all of these things? And just because I didn't have them didn't mean that I didn't have value. But like, to the music industry, it kind of looks like that. Like, well, she doesn't have a manager. But that's what it felt like too. and then I found a great manager, and then we would like, it was like dating, and then I just don't have the space right now to like, I really want to like show up for you as best I can, and like I just can't do that right now, or like that happened so many times, and every time I was just crushed, because every time it was like reinforcing, like, if you were good enough, then they would make the space, and so to me, I was like, well, you're not.
Totally.
Like if
which I understand why you think that, but that is not right. That's not true. Totally.
So that's what it felt.
So,
and so then eventually I ended up meeting these people. I was like, oh, manager meeting, like I'm gonna meet these two people. I have no idea who they are, like whatever. And then I ended up meeting these people, and the vibe was fine, but at that point I was so calloused and like numb to everything. But to this day, they're my managers, and honestly, I have felt so much love and support and light from people who I never thought was possible to have in a management team. And I, like looking back now, like I really needed all of that to appreciate like who I have today. And I mean, I'm grateful every day for them, just because of how fucking badass they are, and like how loving, and like just how much they have faith in me. So
that kind of draws back to you're exactly where you need to be, you had to go through all of this to meet those people and to wait for the time to be right for them. And I mean, to me, that story is now knowing this, you're twice as badass to me, because seeing all the success you've had and how, I mean, this album, the Billboard #1, just like all this successful streaming, all the, I mean, you had to work for that.
Yeah.
And that, I think some people see all this success and they think it just happened and you were just, it was just, you were supposed to have all this. And it's just really cool that you had to overcome some self-doubt, you had to overcome some hardships. And I mean, I'm just like, I'm really into that story. And I think those are the stories that are really important to be told, especially, with what we're trying to build Femme House, which is empowerment and belief in yourself. And I just really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is like, when I got that call from my manager at the time, the breakup call, and I was literally like, I had to hang up because I was crying so hard. Like from that, if I had been able to go to myself at that moment and like give myself a hug and be like, don't worry, like it's all going to be good. Like just hold tight for like a year and trust me, like everything's going to be so much better than it ever was. And how would I know that,
Totally. I understand now your advice to yourself. You're exactly where you should be. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Anabel. I absolutely love your album. I listen to it all the time.
Yay.
You're a huge inspiration. Thank you for being our very first guest on Femme House Radio.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band. I said, we all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world.